Hello and welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yee.
I'm Chris Yee.
And today we're going to be reviewing Skymines.
Skymines.
This is an Alexander Pfister game from Pegasus Spiel.
This is kind of the redevelopment of his earlier game, Moon-basa. Joining as a co-designer on the box here, you see the name of Alexander Kobilki, because this is a slight redevelopment of Moon-basa. It's mostly a reskinning.
Right.
Some small changes. If you want to see a direct comparison of what those changes are, I'm going to be doing a separate video. Look at the cards next to each other, the boards, the tracks, any mechanical changes. I'll be doing a point-by-point comparison video, but what we're doing here is we're going to be reviewing Skymines.
And so what we're going to mention Moon-basa occasionally, but we know not everyone has played it. So we might do a little bit of comparison, but we're really going to try to keep that mostly in Chris's video. And that video is going to come out after this sometime, right?
Shortly after this, yeah.
Okay. So Chris is going to show you how it's played.
Here's the setup of Skymines. I'm not going to be teaching you all the rules in detail, but I'm going to give you an idea of how the game works. There's a player dashboard area here and a hand of cards. You'll be playing cards out into these slots and activating those each round. Over here on the main board, there are 4 different companies. No player individually owns a company, but they'll be investing in those companies over the course of the game and getting more shares. Those shares will be multiplied by how well the company is doing, represented by moving these pieces out on the board and revealing more value. You're going to multiply the number of coins shown by the number of shares you have in all 4 companies, and all players can invest in all of the companies. There's a market of cards over here that players can purchase from to add to their hand of cards to make it stronger and make it more specialized. The basic flow of the game is such that there is a planning phase where all players will simultaneously select cards from their deck of cards here, from their hand of cards, and place it out face down into the player dashboard. Once everyone is ready, you'll flip over your cards. Now, starting with the first player, players will be taking actions. If you do actions that spend your cards, you'll be flipping them face down to indicate that you've used it. The first action you can do is you can spend these resources, you can flip them face down, to purchase new cards. With these 2 carbon, for example, I could purchase any cards out here that have a total cost of 2 or less. For example, here 2 plus 0, I could purchase this card, add it to my deck, and I would flip this card face down. If I wanted to take a different action, I could spend a resource to move and advance on these different company tracks. So if I spent this and flipped it face down, I could move up 2 steps on any tracks. I could even split that, and that's one of the best ways to get more end game scoring. The next action you can do is you can spend this energy resource here specifically for expanding out companies. When you flip this and use energy, you can choose any one of the companies, any one of them, and expand them out that number of steps. So for example, with 2 steps, I could move out here and then move out here. I've now increased the value of the Minerva Corp. I've also gotten bonuses immediately for moving out onto these places here. And the next action that you can do is you can use scientists. There are 2 tracks on your player board. This is the helium track, where you'll have to use the helium scientists to advance on this, and then the research track for research scientists. So if I use a research scientist, I can advance my upload cloud token. If I have cards played out that are still face up that match these requirements, I can move that. I could then purchase new research tokens and put them out onto my board. Now, if I was able to, in earlier actions, get these research tokens out here, if I meet the requirements for multiple of these, I don't have to advance 1 step at a time. If I meet any requirements, I can keep advancing until I get to the last one, and then get a bonus for that. As you move further on this track, once you reach this spot, you flip this node on, and now you can play more cards from your hand per round, and then you'll get points as you cross each of these thresholds. The helium scientists are going to function very similarly. These allow you to harvest more helium. Some of them are also going to be dependent on individual companies. So the more presence that these companies have in these helium mining areas here, you can get more helium. When you cross a certain threshold, you can also flip this node on and play more cards, and you get more points as you advance along these tracks over here. The last action is the bonus markers. Think of this as a worker placement mechanism if you're familiar with that. you can, instead of flipping over a card, place one of these out here, and there are various slots where you can place them onto. Over here in the bottom right, you can grab first player, trash cards from your hand to get money, which is victory points in this game. You can spend that money to get these bonuses here. These are basically extra cards of different types that you have for the next round and don't need to be slotted in here. You can just spend those as regular, and those would be for the subsequent round. Up here in the corner, though, are these majority bonus spaces. If I have more carbon in play than any other player at the table, I can spend my turn to place a bonus disc up here into the carbon majority spot, and then I'll be able to move up on the company track depending on how much carbon I have showing, how much energy, or the different resources. If I have the most scientist face up, then I can flip this one over for money and to get more of these research tokens. If I have spent my carbon, though, the next player who has the most amount of carbon can go ahead and take that spot. So it's just whoever has the majority at that time. So those are the basic actions. The game is played over 7 rounds. At the end of each round, you will take your cards that you have spent and discard them into the... You can... in the original Moon-basa, you had to discard them straight up, but in this version of the game, you have a little more flexibility. You can discard them into these piles here. Before you do that, you actually grab one pile up and put it back in your hand, then you discard them. At the end of the next round, after you have played cards out, you'll grab one of these discard piles and then add it into your hand, and then you'll be discarding cards up here. So you see that you are incentivizing and strengthening different piles of cards in your planning, what things you want to put together to pick up for the next round. At the end of 7 rounds, whoever has the most points wins. Points are coins that you have earned in hand and kept, and your multiplier of the number of shares you have times the company's value at the end of the game. Whoever has the most points is the winner.
The Skymines is a pretty involved game, and yet I find that it's an approachable type of game despite its weight. I've got a lot of good to say about it because I really love the original Moon-basa. I know you enjoyed as well.
Yeah, I definitely do. Let's start with the components because I feel like the components are some of the biggest changes.
I think it's honestly the biggest change.
The biggest change, sure.
The theme, the setting, everything, right? I understand that, you either like this setting or you don't like it. You either liked the previous setting or you didn't like it. And we're not going to talk too long about theme and setting in that way because, comparison-wise, it's different. You're mining on the moon.
Sure, we're mining on the moon. So one side of the board is the same map as before. The other side is different. That stuff doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is the iconography I struggle with. So the different resources, you're playing cards, and the different resources that you play, they're all inside these clear boxes, but the resources are so small and they're so hard to tell from a distance. The teal looks like the light blue. And it just frustrates me that I'm looking across the board trying to figure out what these scientific plans are or research plans are. And I think I have the perfect stuff. I'm going to lay down my cards, plan my actions, and then partway through my turn, you tell me that it's the wrong color. And I'm just like, no.
I find even when I have stuff in my hand, I'm looking at the cards, and the cards are a little bit... The iconography on them feels a little bit crammed to the side and everything. I think that the card play system is so great in this game, and it's a selling point, an absolute selling point. And so I want the cards to be very readable. I find that the iconography they chose to go with on the cards, like you mentioned on the plans that might be across the board from you at a distance, some of that stuff doesn't gel as well. And this is one of those areas where I know for sure this is a direct comparison to the prior game, Moon-basa.
It is.
Where, make fun of Clemens Franz as an artist if you will, as a graphic designer, he is really top-notch.
It was really clear. Everything was really clear in the previous game.
I think the graphic design is not the best. I do enjoy the art, but it's a bit busy. Even when you look at the board spread on the table, it's a bit busy.
There's also just extra icons on the board that don't need to be there. So you have an icon for money. You go to a certain space, you get a money bonus. But then also it has an extra icon underneath that's like a mine. So I'm mining the money. And I don't understand why those pictures are there. I assume it's a future expansion thing. It's got to be set up for something because otherwise it doesn't make sense. It looks like, oh, I get 4 bonuses. No, I really get 2. I get money and I get helium, but there's a mine and there's like some sort of
excavator.
Something.
Yeah, there's extra symbols where they don't need to be. Now, all of that stuff are big complaints that I have, but also, relatively speaking, how big of a complaint is it? Because...
yeah, it's only going to affect my score a little bit.
Yeah, but I really like this game a lot. I think what And any other component thoughts before we kind of get into gameplay here?
I just wish the tuck boxes, I wish that they were a little bit more clear as to what goes where and why and how.
It took me a good minute to figure out what goes where.
That's all. It's a lot of graphic design stuff. It's a lot of that. Once you get past that, really enjoy the game. So as a game, Skymines, like you had mentioned, the action selection is very intriguing.
I love it.
It's very involved, and I really enjoy as you plan and you're programming out, like, these are the 4 or 5 things I'm going to do this turn. What am I going to do? Plan it out, have it all ready to go, and then it's almost like worker placement, but no one can steal your workers, or no one can steal your spot.
It is an interesting comparison would be kind of Tricarian, because in Tricarian you're placing out cards, and that's for your specific workers to go to. This is different, where you're planning out your cards, but they are resources that you'll spend or majorities that you're trying to get so that you can put your discs, your worker, I just call them workers, they're bonus markers, on those majority spaces.
Yeah.
I love that mechanism, because you're sitting there saying, I'm investing heavy in gray cube, and I hope that I have the most gray cube so that I can go to the gray cube bonus space. I like that, and so you're always debating, what do I do first? What actions take priority? Do I buy a card from the lineup that is really juicy and super good, but I got to flip those cards over, and now I can't put my bonus marker on that worker placement spot.
Just giving you extra stuff.
Right, and if you have one of that cube available, one of that resource face up in your cards, you could take that majority spot. So I like how there's a lot of tension with just the order of it, but you're not locked in, you're not programmed per se.
Yes.
It just is, which of many great choices do you want to make first?
Yeah, if you've played Blackout Hong Kong, there's a similar but different kind of hand stuff going on there.
And that feels more programmed because it has to fire off.
Yeah, that has a lot more programming to it. The tracks on the outside of the board and the way that you invest in stocks in those tracks, I really enjoy that. I mean, Chris and I both love tracks. We both love stocks.
Tracks.
You know, you got
Tracks
that economy stuff going on. But I really appreciate that as you're moving up them, there's certain things that cost more. So you could say, you know, I have to save up that money so I can get past a certain point. I think that's very cool. I love that when you do the majorities, certain majorities move you up on specific tracks, and so you have to think about it as you're buying new cards and as you're building your collection, that you're saying, you know, what am I going to invest in, because I'm hoping to get majorities in those so I can move up on those specific tracks.
You get bonuses as you move along the tracks. You get end game scoring, huge multipliers based on that.
Sometimes new action spaces you can go to.
Exactly, new action spaces, extra worker placement discs, you know, just things that are unique, and I love that, and you can mix up the tracks, the double-sided. I love the idea of spreading the companies out on the map. It almost feels like an area control type game where you're spreading everything, but nobody owns a single company. Yeah. This to me is kind of like a more beefed up version of Airlines Europe, one of those games where no one controls a single color company, but everyone can be invested in them. So if gray kind of starts moving into purple's turf, you're like, do I like this? Do I not like it? I am invested in both gray and purple. I'd be happy to see, you know, them kind of take out orange or red or whatever. So I love that tension of the map, the expansion and everything going on there.
Yeah, there's so much positive interaction, and I know I've heard people say that at 2 players they don't think it's as interesting, but I think that's totally wrong. I think at 2 players there's still enough tension going on in that map because it's not my faction versus your faction.
Yes.
And so all 4 things are still expanding on that map. They're still getting in each other's way. You're still having to pay extra to remove someone else's, what are they in this game? The houses? Huts,
I forget what they're called.
Stations? I don't know.
Yeah.
But you're moving their pieces so that you can put your pieces there. You have to pay more. There's still all of that push and pull and tension, but it's all that positive interaction. If Chris suddenly just goes overboard with gray and he makes it expand out a ton, guess what I do? I start investing in gray.
Yeah.
I move up on those tracks. It's not like he can completely block me out from anything.
I think that there's a great tension there. It works very well for me as a 2-player game. It includes an Atama, Luna, it's called. You can throw that in a solo game, or you can throw it in if you want for like a 2 or 3-player game to increase tension. I personally wouldn't. I think the game is just great at 2 players. I know that's maybe more of an unpopular opinion. A lot of people think this game shines at 3 and 4, but I think it works really well at any player count. So, with that, why don't we kind of close up? Let's go to our final thoughts and our ratings and everything with this one.
Sure. So I'm going to give you a comparison. So Moon-basa, I give a 9. I'm going to give this an 8.5, and it's strictly because it loses a little bit of that because of the iconography, some of those design decisions. Like I said, it disappoints me a little bit. Also, I don't love the new map necessarily.
The backside,
the backside,
asteroid
yeah,
map.
the asteroid map. I'm not in love with it. But an 8.5, I just want to make it very clear that I still very much enjoy this. It's a very good reskin, retheme, reworking. Really enjoy it. One thing that I love about Skymines and Moon-basa and both of these games is that there are so many different avenues you can go down. There are 4 different tracks that you can invest in. There's the research and there's the helium something. That you can invest in, so you can move up on those. You can't ever complete everything. You'll never make it to the end of all the tracks. And I love that. I love that there's tons of different directions you can go. There's 4 different factions, or the different factions that you can invest in. There's just so much going on, and so every game can be different.
It's funny that I'm going to, score-wise, be very similar to you, except that I'm giving this one a 9.5. I give Moon-basa a 10. It is one of my 10s. The 9.5 is strictly because, as you mentioned, the graphic clarity issues that I have with this. If this had a slightly more easy to scan and easy to understand visual look to it, this would be a 10. I really love this game. I love competing with those companies moving around the board, because this is not a Euro game where you're simply looking at your own board saying, how can I be best, most Euro-y player? You really are looking at the other players just as much. This is a heads-up game as much as this is a heads-down game, because you care about what cards and majorities they're playing. What cards are they buying? Are you likely to be able to respond in kind to that? I love this game so much. The extra modules and everything, I'm going to show you more in that comparison video if you want to see more about that. I like them. I think that they're all good, at least, but none of them are so great that it compensates for that lack of visual clarity. And so that, for me, is that's the 0.5 difference. This is a 9.5, seal of excellence. Highly recommend that you play this game. I love it. So that's our thoughts on Skymines.
There you go. Thanks for joining us today at the Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yee.
I'm Chris Yee.
Have fun on your moon base.